of reality, super-relativity, and unified field theory, Mark Fiorentino. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning.
Very good to have you on. Thank you so much for this opportunity to explore the universe and the nature of this expanding universe that we are a part of in this little blue dot in this Milky Way galaxy. Great to be able to talk with you about. We may have to begin with a bit of a primer about the unified field. The unified field theory, or maybe we should back up to Albert Einstein and his work as well. Well, of course, you obviously have great experience in this. I mean, you come with a wealth of knowledge and understanding about such things, and I understand you have an insatiable and unrelenting curiosity about Albert Einstein and his work. Where did that begin? How young were you when you began to look up and look about and think, what in the world has been happening here?
Well, that is a good question, and there is definitely a history there. I remember that the nuns in the church and were asking, we were going to school on Sunday school, and they asked everybody to find a saint that was born on their birthday, and I couldn't. There was no internet at the time, but I looked at the calendar and I found out that Albert Einstein was born on my birthday. So I gave a report on that, and I looked up Albert Einstein in encyclopedia, and I read about the unified field theory, and I remember sitting there on the floor in the living room thinking, this is the best idea I ever heard. And I couldn't get it out of my head after for the next 55 years. Every movie I watched, everything I read, does this have something to do with it? I just couldn't stop thinking about it. So that's how I got into it.
Most of us go no further than E equals MC squared, wild hair, and the most intelligent man that most of us can consider. But a number of years ago, I read Walter Isaacson's Einstein, his biography of Einstein, and I was probably the most remarkable thing about the book was how well the author Isaacson was able to explain what Einstein was doing, and almost made me feel like I knew what the heck he was talking about.
Yeah, I could just tell you a little bit about what the book is about, or if you want me to explain the basic theory of of unified field theory, I can give you a little statement on that.
Well, let's begin there. Yeah.
Well, basically, later on in Albert Einstein's career, he attempted to construct a unified field theory in which electromagnetism and gravity would emerge as aspects of a single fundamental field. That's it in a nutshell. I mean, obviously there's more details that I could put in there, but that's what he was trying to do, and that is the proper way, the proper path to go in order to achieve a unified field theory. Now there's another one now, a competing one that comes from quantum mechanics, and I basically have thrown that one out. And I'm gone back to the Einstein version because I feel certainly that is the correct path to follow.
Yeah, I've often read that quantum mechanics just doesn't seem to work for people.
No, it's got many problems, and basically the fundamental problem with it is quantum mechanics mathematics can't tell you how anything really works. It's probabilities. It's based on probabilities. And probabilities explain mechanisms and forces and actions. It's just a really clear method of getting results from experiments and predicting them with probabilities. It just doesn't tell you how things work. And when you try to use it to explain things, you get nonsensical arguments. So there's a problem, I feel, with quantum mechanics.
And you say the mathematics doesn't work. The mathematics is the language of physics, isn't it?
Yes, it is, most definitely. And we've managed to develop a very, good mathematics with quantum mechanics that predicts things very accurately. But even though it does that, we don't know why these things happen. The cause and effect isn't there. It's basically saying there is no cause and effect. Everything's random. And Einstein didn't like that. And they had arguments over that. Him and another famous physicist, Niels Bohr, they had debates in which it was basically said that Einstein lost, but I don't think he did. But, that's a big controversy that's still going on even today. And certainly my book goes over that many times.
Well, and again, the book is Master of Reality, Super Relativity, the Unified Field Theory. How is it, if we can, how you discovered a missing link, so to speak, in this theory, and from all of your inquiry, you have notions about how the universe was created and how it will end. And then I want to hear about extraterrestrials as well. But describe this process, this thought process that leads you to some of your conclusions.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's go over what the book is, and as I do that, I'm telling you the process.
Sure.
In the Master of Reality, I present evidence that the universe was intelligently designed. Right away, that should pique a lot of people's interest. I spotted patterns in nature that convinced me that the universe is not random creation that emerged from nothing. This book provides metaphysical explanation for reality, and my theory is about studying the nature of things. Einstein once said, "I want to know the thoughts of God. The rest are details." I discovered that the details are God's thoughts. So technically speaking, the book is about the mind of God as it is expressed in physical reality. So in the book, I reveal the origin of mass. That's a very big deal. Basically, that is the unified field theory. I talk about the signature of God. The signature is the detailed explanation of how particles create mass in the gravitational field. The other side, the spiritual side, calls that the breath of God. I reveal the theory and technology of antigravity, which I'm sure everybody's real keen to know about. I am sure that UFOs use this same technology. I also reveal how to break the light speed barrier. Mankind must achieve this capability if we're going to survive long term. I give detailed explanations of particles and forces. I give detailed explanation of the birth and death of the universe. And it's also about future technologies and solutions. It is vitally important that mankind be able to bilocate on at least 2 different planets if we want to survive till the end. I reveal about how to build a Stargate, which can be used to travel through time and other dimensions. There's more, but the book includes solutions to help protect mankind from natural disasters.
Well, you said we have to break the speed of light barrier, and that would make sense if we're going to get anywhere else.
Exactly.
Because things are so far away.
Exactly. And you just can't break it by a little bit. You got to break it by tens of thousands of times. You have to be able to travel quite literally at the speed of a god, so that if I wanted to go to the next star system, I can get there in an hour. And then, you're going to think that that's not possible. But if you study the early equations coming from Maxwell and the recent research done by scientists right now, if you manipulate space, the permittivity and the permeability of space, and you reduce it, you can go to any speed that you need to get to. Because permeability and permittivity are what Maxwell determined is what determines the speed of light. C equals 1 over the square root of permeability times permittivity. If you manipulate those 2 values in space, which means space is a something, a physical object, if you can manipulate that and bias space, then you can go any speed you want because you've changed the rules that determine what the speed of light is. That's what we have to do.
Some of us will remember reading Contact, by Carl Sagan, and there were, tunnels through which one could pass. You're doing something else other
Yes.
than that fictional version.
Yes, exactly right. You got that exactly right. I'm creating what I call a slipwave. A slipwave is like a bubble in space, and it's like the opposite of what they did in Contact. There, they created like a gravitational black hole, and you were going to cut across space by jumping through that. That would be lethal. Uh, this method that I use, I discovered by studying particles, and I discovered that particles move by the use of a phenomenon known as the slip wave, which is basically a pressure wave that exists inside of the particle. And it has to do with the structure of the particle, and it comes from the electrostatic field. So now I can get in, I'm getting into a lot of details, and I might be losing people, but all those details that I had to go through to find out why particles move, and understanding that, then I could create a technology based on that mechanism. And that mechanism is a slip wave, it's a pressure wave, and you create it using magnetic fields. That's
so of course, once talk about the technology, super Mike Fiorentino is what his master of reality, super relativity, and the unified theory, the unified field theory. If I may, mass created. Now, as I have come to, well, I don't know about understand, but that if there was a Big Bang, that Big Bang happened in this massive void, and from that Big Bang of perhaps almost nothing in terms of mass, all of this mass was created. Do I have that kind of generally true? Accurate?
Well, since it's an intelligent design scheme I use, and I had to investigate, is there a God or not? And I used techniques and methods that physicists would never consider. I queried NDEs, near-death experiences, looking for evidence, because I wanted, like Einstein said, I wanted to know the thoughts of God. And what's the best way to do that? Well, talk to him. So I found people that talked to him. And I even queried really well-known mediums and asked some questions, but that's a little more difficult because they're a little reluctant to give up the secrets of God so easily to anybody. It's like asking for the lottery numbers. They're not going to give everybody the lottery numbers. If you want, just ask. But the NDEs, certain people, and I have them on my website and my blog, God revealed universal secrets, and they pretty much match up with what I have in my theory. So when the beginning happened, God created it through the power of intention, and he's creating many universes. This is what they say from the other side, and there's more than one person that says it. He's created an infinite amount of universes, and it's happening all the time, and this was just one. And once it's created, it just continues to cycle in and out as the massive black hole that's there in the beginning explodes. And I go over why it explodes in my theory.
How the universe was created, how it will end, we obviously have limited time to explore the nature of all of this, but how the universe was created, how, that I mentioned, the Big Bang, and from all of that, from that very little bit, all of this.
Well, it wasn't really a little bit. It was a massive size black hole, according to my theory, which spans hundreds of thousands of light years inside. When that thing went off, the black hole is composed of neutronium. Neutronium is just neutrons tightly packed together. And there's plenty of evidence that when stars blow up, what's left are neutron stars. And if they're really big stars, what's left is black holes. All I'm saying is a black hole is a neutron star that's very dense. And when you pass a certain threshold, then light can't reflect off of it anymore, and then it appears to be something different, but it's not. It's still a neutron star. So when the big boom happened, what was released was tremendous amounts of neutron gas or plasma and neutronium seeds, which were the seeds that made galaxies and stars happen. So that's the beginning of the cycle of the universe.
And we think of this as an expanding universe, but then if it were to contract, that would be the end. What do you theorize is how the universe will end?
Well, if you look at the evidence, here's one of the problems I have with physicists and physics. They say it's expanding, but that was based on incomplete data. If you look very closely, the accelerations, and you look at a larger, bigger view, which astronomers have now done, and they're on the internet complaining that it's not expanding, it's contraction. And the accelerations of the galaxies are being caused not by mysterious dark energy, which probably doesn't exist. It's being caused by a well-known force, gravity. And our galaxy and a bunch of others with us are all being attracted to something called the Great Attractor. The universe is already dying, and we're on a course for the end. When we hit the Great Attractor a few billion years from now, it's going to be over. And these great massive objects are sprinkled all around the universe, and they have plotted that there's groups of galaxies traveling toward these in different parts of the universe. So we're already well into the collapse phase.
About a few billion years. So,
oh yeah, we got plenty of time, definitely. But I do have solutions in my book. It's to fix the problem, which means you have to inject something into black holes to either make them explode, which I do not recommend. It's highly dangerous, kills galaxies usually, or you siphon them using the antigravity technology.
Of course, many of us on the planet, many are questioning whether we have how many decades left of the way we are consuming this finite planet. But of course, you suggested, in order to survive, we may have to move beyond it. And that extraterrestrials, you're convinced, have visited our planet.
Oh yeah. There's overwhelming testimonial evidence, and I've seen them here. My wife and I even saw them in front of our house in the middle of the night. I've seen them before over the years. Everybody can't be wrong. Certain percentages of people are not looking at Venus or swamp gas. They're actually seeing visitors from other planets. And they got here, and they didn't do it with rockets or jets. That's not going to happen. They have to have a spatial bias technology that gets them here, and it have to be going much faster than the speed of light. So I'm convinced that they're here and they're visiting.
Well, I have, in my experience, heard but one first-hand credible source saying, yes, but there was a machine, of some sort.
Yeah, they use, in my opinion, high magnetics. And there's plenty of evidence. You can go all the way back to the mid-40s. I remember reading a report from Project Blue Book, I think it might have been, where the officer, it was a colonel, I think, went to the landing site and measured the landing site using a magnometer. So why did he bring a magnometer, which is the thing that measures magnetic fields? And when they were measuring, they measured the blades of grass, and they were magnetized. And that takes a lot of magnetic force to do that. And that stuck in my head. And I kept thinking, well, magnetism must have something to do with anti-gravity. So all of that I explain in my book. I explain the mechanics of why magnetism creates an anti-gravity field and can be used for propulsion.
I'm going to speaking with Mark Fiorentino. He's the author of Master of Reality, Super Relativity, and Unified Field Theory. And the book just out and available now. Clues hidden in the past, leading to many of your realizations. We are a very clever species, and some would say perhaps we've been a bit too clever because we may have created technologies that we've become dependent upon, and if we lose one or more of them, we begin to see problems. Well, we're seeing perhaps we're seeing some of that right now as we face this coronavirus pandemic. I don't believe it's related to technology, but it certainly spreads via the technologies that we have.
Correct.
Are we clever enough to overcome our current state of affairs, whether it's climate change and perhaps catastrophe, or the internecine sort of stuff that goes on the planet, which may cause us to self-destruct before we can achieve what you think might be a utopian society, Mark?
Yeah, I have a lot of solutions in the book for as many things as we can solve. An asteroid hitting the planet, you send up drones to push it off. Those kind of things you can dodge. Can we dodge? Let's just say that we have super volcanoes and they go off. The only thing we can do is go somewhere else if it's really big. If we have a plague, then we better be somewhere else where that place is under quarantine. So we better have some colony on Mars, or we better have some colony on another planet. Certain things my technology can solve, like I have an idea for the super ambulance. It's based on the anti-gravity technology, and it can get to wherever it needs to get to in seconds rather than minutes. Like it may take 5 minutes to get from the hospital to my house, but if you use the supercar, it just lifts straight up and flies straight to your house in a matter of seconds, drops down. The people can be working on you if you're having a heart attack within 30 seconds rather than 5 or 6 minutes, which it might take to cut through traffic, get through the lights, go around everybody. So I'm offering a lot of solutions. I offer a solution for global warming, but it has to have anti-gravity technology, or it's not practical to do what I propose, which is Project Sunshade. We're going to need to build that thing long-term anyway, because the sun is slowly burning hotter. And NASA has confirmed that now. It's very, very small rate of change, but even if we get our stuff together here and start planting more trees and stop building so many cities and buildings and whatever and polluting, and we can drive the temperature down long term, in 1,000 years the temperature is going to go up again, and it's going to keep rising because the sun is running out of hydrogen, and when it switches to helium, it's going to burn a lot hotter.
Mark, I apologize. We are out of time, but I want to thank you very much. Again, the book is Master of Reality, Super Relativity, and the Unified Field Theory. Mark Fiorentino, thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Okay, you're welcome. Enjoyed it.
Thank you. Well, bye.
Bye-bye.
Mark Fiorentino, Master of Reality, Super Relativity, and the Unified Field Theory. I'm Eric Schumann. This is WOJB Reserve, broadcasting from the Democracy Now!